Good evening, you're watching Estuary News. I'm Hugh Riches. In the headlines tonight, the future of two much-loved Hull buildings, a petition is handed into North Lincolnshire Council to protect a market, and a cash boost for Grimsby Central Hall. Later in tonight's programme, I'll be talking to Nick Quantrill and Nick Triplow about Hull Noir Film Festival. And before that, Elaine Atkinson on Saturday's clean-up operation of the River Freshney. A man is in critical condition in hospital following a serious crash in Bridlington. It happened at 2 a.m. on Sunday on the A165 at Bessingby Hill in Bridlington. A black Vauxhall Astra left the road and came to stop in a field. The 60-year-old driver suffered serious and life-threatening injuries. A female passenger sustained minor injuries. Hull City Council is to buy two derelict buildings in the city centre. The former BHS and Edwin Davis buildings will be transformed into new shops, leisure facilities and apartments. A new ice rink will also be incorporated into the development. It'll cost the council over £2 million to purchase the sites. The scheme will take up to 5 years to complete, creating over 400 jobs. The former MP for Great Grimsby says fishing limits should be restored once the UK leaves the EU. Austin Mitchell believes the industry can be rebuilt if they are back in British hands.
If we have our own fishing limits, as every other country has done, the US, Iceland, New Zealand, Australia, they've all taken their own 200-mile limits, so should we. And you can rebuild the British industry within those limits. So we have some of the richest fishing grounds in the world. At the moment, they've been decimated and looted by European competitors who are allowed to catch more fish in our waters than we are. That's a ludicrous situation.
And you can see that interview in full on Hot Topic tonight at 8:30 on Estuary TV. A petition has been handed to North Lincolnshire Council today. It bears 18,000 signatures against the council's plans to move Scunthorpe Market from Market Hill. Market traders say the relocation would prove impractical and costly, and upgrading the present site would be the best option. The market forms part of a £60 million plan to transform Scunthorpe Market. A consultation closes on Wednesday. Grimsby Central Hall has been awarded £10,000 by the National Lottery. The money will go towards renovating the building off Freeman Street and investing in cultural activities and services for future generations. The investment ties in with last year's demolition of the Coma Flats and the imminent demolition of the neighbouring high-rise towers. Steve Maxon, chairman of the Grimsby Central Hall Trust, says the investment involves listening to what the community wants from its hall.
Well, it's absolutely tremendous. As I'm sure your viewers will be aware, we've been facing closure 2 or 3 years ago. The place very nearly closed, so it's wonderful that the lottery Awards for All grant thinks that we're worthy of looking at what our future might be. And so, that moment where that email came in saying we've been awarded £10,000 was just absolutely tremendous, and we're very, very excited about the opportunities that opens up for the hall. Well, the idea of it is essentially it's looking at the feasibility of the hall. It's looking at how we can make the place self-sustaining, how we can improve the reach so that it says outside there, Arts and Community Centre, so that we are really reaching out into the local community here on the East Marsh as well as more broadly. And it's looking at what the community wants from us, and also how we can better equip the hall to serve those needs. At the end of the day, the Central Hall has been here on the East Marsh since I think 1936, and throughout that time, yes, it's been a Methodist church for a long time until the Methodists closed 20 years or so ago, but it has been a place right at the centre of what's going on here, and we really, really do want to reach out to the local community. It's not our building. We want as many people coming into that building day by day as possible.
Lincolnshire Police Force has revealed that more than 100 officers have been assaulted in the last 6 months. New statistics show that 133 officers have been victims of assault since April. These include being spat at, having teeth knocked out and broken noses. The statistics also show that Lincolnshire officers reported nearly 3,000 instances where force was used to restrain individuals. The Five Senses charity is gearing up for its third and final City of Culture-themed performance. The Hull-based organisation, which helps vulnerable people, put on a production celebrating vulnerable people's place in the City of Culture. This November, the group's third and final production, We Are Five Senses, will be unveiled to the public. Adam Tyas, senior coordinator of the charity, and tutor Caroline Vickers, says We Are Five Senses is all about boosting confidence.
So Five Senses was set up as a performing arts and education centre. So we use the arts to inform our students, to educate them. And so the three performances that we've done have all taught the students not only social skills and built the confidence, but also about Hull itself, about where we've come from as a community, as a city. And so it just continues the learning of building the confidence and just involving them in their city more.
We Are Five Senses is, like you say, the final of 3 shows that we've done for the City of Culture. And it is really about a celebration of what our students have achieved this year to be part of the City of Culture. But at the same time as that, it's also going to share some information with the audience about what is Five Senses about, you know, what we stand for, what our point and purpose is, what we try to achieve with our students. So it's going to take the audience on a journey of you know, what we do and why we do it and why it matters to us so much, and at the same time a big celebration of all their achievements. So we'll be recapping on some of the things that we've achieved in the year, as well as lots of fresh new ideas and pieces of theatre to enjoy.
Now, 96 people turned out on Saturday to help spruce up the River Freshney in Grimsby, and I'm joined now by Elaine Atkinson, our gardening correspondent, essentially, to tell us what happened. It was you weren't there as our gardening correspondent; you were there from Grimsby in Bloom.
Yes, I was there as chair of Grimsby and Bloom, one of the organisers of the event. Whereabouts
on the Freshney were you cleaning it up?
We started from Anderson Street, just about near which flows into Top Town, and we went all the way down nearly to Boulevard Avenue Bridge.
OK, so a long way, that long first straight stretch of,
yes.
of the river.
Yes.
96 people, quite a good turnout.
We thought if we got 20, we'd be really, really happy with that, but more people kept coming and more people kept coming, bringing the children along. It was absolutely amazing. So when I added up at the end, because people had to sign in, and it was 96, I just couldn't believe it.
It needed a bit of work. Let's have a little bit of a look at how it was before you got your hands on it. It's that's rather a lovely shot, isn't it? But it's there we are. A bit sad to see a duck standing on top of an old trolley.
Yeah.
Shopping trolley, plastic rubbish all over that. Is that duckweed under the bridge there? Oh, that's a rather nice travelling suitcase, one of those ones with wheels. Why on earth do people chuck their rubbish into the river like that? I mean, it seems like such an antisocial thing to do.
Do you know, I honestly don't know the amount of things that we brought out. A trampoline.
A trampoline, really?
A trampoline, a bike, a little Thomas the Tank Engine train, the suitcase, shopping trolleys, barriers. You name it, I think we pulled it out.
Well, shopping trolleys are traditional parts of British rivers. There's no reason to remove a shopping trolley. It's part of the ecology now,
yes.
isn't it?
Well, yes. I think I can understand some of the plastic bottles and cans because they do blow out of people's recycling boxes, but you could tell that some of them had been there a while by the state of them. But, yeah, we've got a lot of rubbish out.
Why does it need you to come and clean the river? I would have thought that that's part of the sort of the services that one expects from a local council, isn't it?
Well, local council, Environment Agency, Anglian Water. I don't know who is totally responsible for it all, but I think with myself as a volunteer, community volunteer, and the residents, I think we'd all had enough of seeing the river in the state it was, and we thought, right, we need to do something about it. So we got in touch with Keep Britain Tidy, and a lovely lady called Fiona McKenna gave us all the information, all the equipment that was needed was brought by them, and we just got on with it and did it.
It's obviously it looks better now,
oh, yes.
And it looks much more beautiful. It's really beautiful anyway, if you can just sort of get the right light and you don't notice the rubbish. But
yes.
What are the other benefits? Beg your pardon. The other benefits of cleaning it up?
Well, now the river is actually flowing. It got to one end of it and it would stop because there was like a weir which stopped it going through because there was that much rubbish. So now it's flowing, which then aerates the water, which encourages the biodiversity. The birds can swim all the way along now. You know, canoeists could even get in there now and canoe up and down if they wanted to. It's amazing what it's opened up.
Are there fish?
Yes, loads of fish. There are some platforms fishing for the fishing group, which we sort of unearthed a bit as well and cut round. So, yeah, hopefully they'll be back fishing.
Well, if you've got the fish, then that's the sign of a healthy river, isn't it?
It is.
And also, of course, it means that there's oxygen in the water, and that's important,
Yes.
and that some of the things going into the water can change the chemistry of the water.
It's all about the biodiversity. If you've got one thing in, and then it'll encourage something else, and it's just a big circle of life within a river.
Now, as Ratty in Wind of the Willows said, there's absolutely nothing quite like mucking about on the water. Did 96 of you splashing around up waist deep, I presume,
No.
with size and tools? Was it fun?
No, we didn't actually get into the water.
Did you not?
We had a couple of guys who got really close, but we had another guy who actually brought his kayak down so he could get any waste, any rubbish that was low down, he could just then pick it and throw it higher up so the litter pickers could get it. So actually in the water we only had a couple of people in boats.
Have you got plans to maintain it? Because that hard work could easily be destroyed just by, a week of negligence.
Yes. I must admit, yesterday there was some rubbish already blown back, but I think that was from recycle bins. But yes, our next one, we haven't got a date fixed, but sometime middle of January, maybe not quite as big as for the strimming and the cutting back, but we are going to do another litter pick all the way along and get the boats in and drag anything else out. Hopefully there won't be anything.
Well, hopefully there won't be anything, because January is not exactly the perfect time of year to be clearing up in the cold and the wet.
No, extra layers on, everybody will be fine.
Elaine, well done. Excellent.
Thank you.
Thanks for a great job.
Thank you.
Join me after the break. Fred will bring us a roundup of all the latest sports news, and I'll be talking to Nick Quantrill and Nick Triplow about Hull Noir Film Festival. Welcome back. You're watching Estuary News. Still to come tonight, Fred brings us a roundup of all the latest sports news, and I'll be talking to Nick Quantrill and Nick Triplow about Hull Noir. Schools across North Lincolnshire are to benefit from improvements according to council plans. The council has invested £14 million in improvements to education buildings, from preschools and children's centres to secondary schools. The investment includes a new preschool at Barrow, and work has started on building an extension at Oakfield Primary in Scunthorpe to provide nursery accommodation. The money is part of the School and Children Improvement Programme. Hull City Council plans to move a library. The current lease at the Mount Pleasant site on Holderness Road comes to an end next year, and a consultation is now underway to determine its future. Alternative locations are at either East Park Pavilion, Balfour Street Community Centre or Drypool Green Community Centre. It could save the council £45,000 a year in rent. The consultation runs until the 31st of October. A final decision is expected by December. Famous British toy maker and retailer Hamleys is coming to Hull. The company opens a new store on the outlet level in Prince's Quay on Thursday. Hamleys has been supplying toys to children around the globe for more than 200 years. Hull Noir opens next month. It celebrates the best of British and international crime fiction and also hosts the prestigious Icelandic noir from Reykjavik. And to tell me more, I'm joined by Nick Quantrill and Nick Triplow. Thank you both very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Sorry about mispronouncing your name.
That's fine. That happens all of the time. I wouldn't worry about that.
Do beg your pardon. Film Noir, I did it earlier on the programme. Mistakenly, I called it a film festival. There will be a few films, but noir is bigger than just film, isn't it?
Certainly.
Go on, tell us what it is, Nick.
Yeah, well, Hull Noir is it's the city's first ever crime writing festival. So it revolves around books, essentially, crime novels. And the idea was to bring 40 of the best crime writers in the country and from further afield in Europe into Hull to talk about the work. So essentially, we have people like Martina Cole coming along, Mark Billingham, crime fiction royalty, essentially.
Well, let's just establish what sort of genre this is. Yeah. We're thinking of the tradition that starts maybe with Raymond Chandler and Dashiell Hammett, people like that, down these mean streets, in this case, down these mean 10-foots a man must go, and all that sort of thing. The Philip Marlowe, and Dashiell Hammett, what was his hero called? The Maltese Falcon.
Sam Spade.
Sam Spade, thank you very much. Yeah. And so we're familiar with it, but that's a sort of an American idea, although Raymond Chandler was English. This is very much a British take on noir. Nick, what are the dates? Where should people be?
The festival starts November the 12th and runs to the 19th of November, but the actual weekend focuses on the 18th and 19th. And we're in the Britannia Royal Hotel in the centre of Hull, so... Yeah, I mean, you can come along and see kind of writers who will follow that tradition, to sort of, different types of writers. Crime writing is such a vast and varied crime family. That there's people writing Golden Age mysteries, them kind of rely on the Agatha Christie style of writing, through to people writing about the very latest technology to commit crimes with. So we've got a really big kind of range of writers, I think.
And we can, Nick mentioned, we can meet all sorts of authors. Crime writing royalty, as you put it, and it's easy access to go up and talk to them, or at least ask them questions, have a drink with them.
Yeah, I mean it's an informal setting, and that's kind of part of the crime fiction world. Really, is that that there aren't any barriers between the kind of writers and readers, and it's about getting up close and having a chat with people and finding out what makes them tick as writers and what their inspirations are.
And sometimes what makes them criminal geniuses.
I think they always said that the writers make the worst criminals.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, because they wanted to tell everybody about it
exactly,
afterwards.
I think so, yeah, that bragging that I've got how to get away with murder almost. But yeah, I think all writers are readers as well. And that kind of is why everybody comes together as kind of like one sort of family in these places.
A big aspect of this is the Icelandic connection. Noir, we, of course, on television at the moment, we're very used to Scandinoir. Every murder we see has got some sort of Nordic connection and a big woolly jumper. What are the Icelanders going to be doing here, Nick?
Well, we've got some of the foremost Icelandic crime fiction writers, and one of those is going to be our festival read, which is a novel called Snare. And I can't pronounce the writer's surname.
No.
It's Lilia, but she's coming over, and we're doing some book groups over the next few weeks in Hull and the East Riding, talking about her novel, and it's her first to have been translated into English. So we're fortunate to have her here. But it's that idea that there's a kind of a similarity, if you like, between certain Humberside and northern Lincolnshire, Hull, the kind of atmospheres, and we've often sort of had in discussions talked about the landscapes of Scandinavia and the landscapes of the East Riding and of Lincolnshire and the kind of big open spaces.
And there's much the same. I mean, the genre is called noir originally because of films, because there was such shade and shadow and darkness. Yeah. And you do get the same sort of Scandinavian light, perhaps, up here on the...
Well, I think so, yeah.
I'm going to have a go at pronouncing that name, by the way. She's Lilia Sigurdardottir.
Oh, that's
well,
pretty
excellent.
decent.
Yeah, that'll do.
Thank you very much.
Excellent.
Anybody who wants to have a go at pronouncing that name, then they can get nowhere to agree.
Come along and have a try at the festival.
Yeah.
I was going to say, our opening panel actually has Lilia taking part in it. It's called Sleeping with the Fishes, and it is looking at this link between Hull and Iceland and where we are similar and where we're different.
Be no perfect title.
Exactly, that was a big aim, wasn't it, to come up with those titles.
There's another connection with noir, Nick, which is your book, Getting Carter, which is about the author of Get Carter, Ted Lewis. Get Carter was probably one of the most famous British noir films that we're all familiar with.
Without a doubt.
Michael Caine, of course, starring. You're a big man, but you're out of shape, being the great line there. But you know much more about Ted Lewis than that, the author. He was a man who studied in Hull.
He was. He studied in Hull. He lived in Barton upon Humber for most of his life and came back there towards the end of his life. And he's very much someone who uses the backdrop of northern Lincolnshire and of Hull for his own noir fiction. And in a sense, he's very much of the landscape and of this part of the world, and his writing it broke new ground. Nobody had quite written noir fiction in the way that he'd written it.
And of course, the film sets Get Carter up in the northeast.
Yeah,
but the book doesn't.
No, it's Scunthorpe.
Right.
It's Scunthorpe, and there are still people who will tell you it's Doncaster. There are still people who will tell you it's Newcastle. It's Scunthorpe.
Is read the book then, I suppose.
It is, and it's a landmark novel. It's a brilliant novel.
Well, and I look forward to reading this. Your work on its author. Very quickly, Nick, what is it about noir that we all love so much?
I think it's this sense of we can root for immoral characters, can't we? You know, people like Jack Carter in that book, what Michael Caine plays in the film. I mean, he's a terrible, terrible man, but we kind of feel sympathy for his plight, don't we? We want him to kind of succeed. And I think that's kind of one that...
I just like the raincoats and the rainy nights.
Exactly, it's very stylish, isn't it, as well?
Gents, thank you very much. I look forward to that very much. Here's Fred with all the sport.
Hull KR halfback Liam Harris is leaving the club. He signed a 2-year contract with the Kingston Press League One club from 2018. Harris made his first team debut for the Robins earlier this season and has turned down the offer of a new deal at Craven Park in favour of the move. Meanwhile, prop Mitch Clark has been released from his contract with the club and will move to Castleford Tigers from 2018. He joined the Robins from Bradford Bulls 12 months ago and went on to make 15 appearances. Club forward George Milton has also signed a new deal. He's on a 2-year contract with Bradford Bulls from next year. He made 2 appearances for the Robins last season during his first year at the club. Hull City's Fraser Campbell scored the only goal of the Tigers game against Barnsley on Saturday. It sealed their first league win away for home for 427 days. Substitute Campbell broke the deadlock with just 12 minutes remaining, firing in from close range after Jackson Ivan's initial header had been cleared off the line. It ended the Tigers' miserable run form in the road, which has seen them pick up just 6 points from a possible 72. Manager Elaine Atkinson said he was happy with the result, though the team didn't play the best match. Grimsby Town kept their unbeaten run going with a draw against Morecambe on Saturday. The Mariners battled well to come away with a point that extended their sequence to 6 games without defeat. Town boss Russell Slade again opted to stick with an unchanged team, so goalkeeper James McEwen lined up behind a defence of Ben Davis, Nathan Clark, Danny Collins and Paul Dixon. The Mariners are next in action on Saturday when Cambridge United are the visitors to Blundell Park. Scunthorpe United beat Peterborough United 2-1 at Glanford Park on Saturday. It was a result of goals from Lee Novak and Josh Morris. Peterborough scored a goal early on in the second half against the run of play, but Novak was on target from inside the box to level the scores. Morris then netted the winner from the penalty spot with 2 minutes remaining. The Irons made their presence known early on and in the 11th minute as Dwayne Holmes found Jordan Clark on the right through some clever play. And that's all for the sport.
Thanks very much, Fred. That's it for tonight. If you have a news story or anything else for us, then please visit our Facebook or Twitter pages. Details below. Email news@estuary.tv or call us on 01472 3155553, or you can write to us at Estuary TV, Nuns Corner, Laceby Road, Grimsby, North East Lincolnshire, DN345BQ. Until tomorrow, from all of us here, good evening.